This is a new feature in the briefcubing.com site. We've added the last 4 edges, the 4C stage of Roux. So you get problems like these that you can solve on a Bluetooth connected Geeker Cube. So for example, here I can see that this red is going to match up with these. I can make a red bar on top and put that back in the front. So make the bar in front, put it on top, turn it around, put it back in front, solved. So you can go through all of these types of problems. You get to peek at the left and right edges right before it goes to the back, and that should be enough information to solve. That's actually what this video is actually about. It's a tutorial on 4C and using this back sticker trick to have enough information to solve all of the cases. We'll go through all of the cases. There's a lot of information on the 3-cycle cases, and it's presented in an interesting way. So let's get started. Starting with 2 of the simplest possible cases, should you be so lucky. 2 of the 24 cases are these. This is where the middle slice edges are already in place. In fact, this one, once you get the left-right edges, you're just solved. Can't get any easier than that. This one, once you get the left-right edges, you're an M2 away. The next case that we have here is the horizontal bars case. So here you see that there's a bar on top, and you'll know without looking that there's also a bar on the bottom. And these are really the same case. In fact, this is just an M2 away from that one. You just need to be able to recognize both of these. The idea in both cases is that this bar needs to turn around and be put on bottom so that you can solve. The other one, the same idea. This needs to turn around. It's on the correct side, but we need to put it on the bottom temporarily so that we can do the other one and then put it back. That's the idea. But it brings up an interesting point, which is that when you're doing these cases, instead of thinking of 4B and 4C, which is getting the UL-UR edges in place and then permuting the middle slice, they should be combined. Basically, right as you're putting the left and right edges in, you should take a peek and make note of what's happening here. For one, later when we do the 3-cycle cases, you need to pay attention to the sticker that's going to the back before you put it there. And secondly, in cases like this, instead of doing a U to line up the left and right edges, just so that you can notice that this is a bar and have to do a U2. Instead of doing that, right before you put the left edge in, notice that these can pair up. And just go ahead and do that. Do a U prime instead and save a step. Next pair of cases is very similar to horizontal bars. Here you have vertical bars. And you recognize it the same way. There'll be a vertical bar in front, and there will always be one in back. And this is the same thing. It's just an M2 away. Just need to be able to recognize those. This strategy in general is to put the bar on top and then just treat it like rows and then put it back. Same thing here, put it on top, treat it like rows, and then put it back. This brings up an interesting point about a debate about regrip and rotations versus putting things on top. So in this case, putting this on top costs 1 move, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 1 more to put it back. Whereas if I were to just do a rotation first, then it's 1, 2, 3, plus the rotation. So it's 1 fewer move, actually. Although in this case, where the bar is the same color as the front or back, it actually doesn't make a difference. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, versus with the rotation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't make any difference, and there's a debate as to whether having to regrip and do rotations, especially when that's so rare with Roux, whether that's even worth it. The final 2 of the non-3-cycle cases are these dots cases. So this is obviously dots. This is just an M2 away. So it's really the same case. One intuitive solution, it's not the most efficient, but it may be what you'd use for one-handed perhaps, is to just pair these up, pair those up, and now treat it just like columns. Same thing here. Just pair those, and now you have columns. The more efficient solution is to learn this little alg. It's very simple. Once you see this case, you have to do a regrip, and it's E2, M, E2, M prime. Or this one is E2, M, E2, M again. And in both of these cases, if you'd rather do the M or M prime up front while you see this, you could do an M prime and then regrip, E2, M, E2. Or in this case, you could do an M prime, E2, M, E2. Now we're going to look at the 3-cycle cases. Here are just 2 of the 16 possible cases. They're very similar, and we're going to learn the structure of these and how to solve them. One thing to note is that from the solver's point of view here, these 2 cubes look exactly the same, but if you take a peek at the back, they're not. The downside is not. So that's one reason why right before getting the left-right edges in place, it's a good idea to peek at what will be the back sticker. That should be enough information to make the solve, and that's what we'll be looking at. The reason that it's called the 3-cycle case is, you can imagine this yellow-orange is actually solved in place. This red-white needs to go here. This yellow-red needs to go here. This orange-white needs to go here. So these 3 need to cycle like this. That's why it's called the 3-cycle case. It doesn't actually help you solve it, but that's why it's called that. To understand how to solve these cases, let's look at the internal structure. So this is kind of a cross-section diagram. The colors are arbitrary. What we have here is a single loner piece. It's not attached to either of those centers. I'm showing it in red. And then a big block. All of this is attached. I'm showing that as blue big block. And then there's a pair. And so that's this green pair. And then another pair, and that's the purple pair. On the other one, they look exactly identical, but they're not. From the top and front view, they are the same. There's again the single block. But this one is not a big block. This is just a single pair. I'm showing that one in purple. Instead, the big block is in front. So I'm showing that one in blue. And there's a pair in back. So this is the internal structure of those 2. And so the idea is you need to understand what you're looking at. In any case, we don't want to break any of these blocks. So you don't want to break any of the pairs, you don't want to break the big block. And so you can see that the only free slice in this case is this upper slice. And the only free slice in this case is the front slice. And so that's how the solution always begins. You actually rotate either this slice or this slice. And in reality, just like most of the 4C solutions in Roux, the tactic is to move that free slice to the top and rotate it there. So now looking at solving these cases, now that we see what the structure is internally, let's start with the one on the right. So we know that the top slice is the free slice, so we begin with a U2, and what that ends up doing is creating a bar in the back that's all attached, and the whole remaining middle slice is attached. So it's something like this: a bar in the back and an attached piece. And so then you put that bar on top, turn it around, and put it in its place. That's the remainder. Very simple. This one is very similar. The front slice is the free slice though. So like a lot of cases, rather than doing an F2, we will put it on top and do a U2, and that ends up making a bar in the front this time, and the whole rest is attached. So it looks like this: bar in the front and the rest is attached. Put that bar on top, turn it around, and put it where it belongs. So that's always how the 3-cycle cases look. You end up with a free slice either in the front, the up face, back face, or down face, and you could end up with either this pattern or this mirror image pattern. So that ends up being 8 cases. The way you get 16 is that it's actually possible for the colors also to be flipped. So these 2 are identical cases structurally, but the yellow and whites have been flipped, the oranges have been swapped with reds throughout. So structurally it's identical, but the colors have been swapped. And so that's how you get another 8 cases. So these are essentially the sub-steps of a 3-cycle solve. You end up finding the free slice. In this case it's in the front. You move that to the top and do a U2 to end up building a block, a bar, and a block. The bar will either be in the front or the back. Then you move that bar to the top, rotate it around, another U2, and then just rotate the M slice to finish the solve. Now sometimes some of these steps can be skipped. For example here, the free slice is already on top, and so we could just start off with a U2 and skip this first step. Another thing is, actually in this case, right before getting the left and right edges in, we could notice that this pairs with this. and we could, instead of doing a U followed by a U2, just do a U prime, and that ends up building the bar and back right away. So sometimes this can be like halfway skipped, turned into a single U or U prime instead of a U2. This can be skipped entirely. And sometimes you're lucky and the bar is the correct color to belong on top anyway, and you can skip this step. The trick to figuring out which of the slices is the free slice when these look absolutely identical is to have looked at the back sticker right before putting it in back. So in this case, these two are opposites, and that means it's going to be a horizontal slice. So it's either going to be the U or the D that's free. In this case, we can tell that it's the U because we don't want to break these two blocks. We'll go through all of the cases, but in this case it's pretty simple. We can see the individual one here. So it's definitely this upper slice that's free. I just wouldn't be able to tell whether it's the front or the up, but because these are opposite, it's definitely the up. This one, they're the same. And so even without noticing that there's a block in back, if you had just peeked and seen that these are the same, you know that it's going to be either the F or the B slice, and because this is a block that you don't want to break, you know it's not the B. Plus again, we can clearly see this is the individual one, so it's going to be this front slice. So put that on top and solve. Just to show another example before we methodically go through all 16 cases, here's another one where if right before putting the left and right edges in we had noticed these are opposites and these are the same. Otherwise they look identical. But knowing that these are opposites, I know then that this is going to be a horizontal case. It's either going to be the U slice or the D slice. I can tell that it's the U because I don't want to break these up. So it's going to start with a U2, makes a bar in front, and we solve it. This one looks identical, but because these are opposite, or sorry, these are the same, then I know that it's a vertical slice. And again, I can tell that it's not the F because that would be breaking this block, so it's got to be the B. Put the B on top, bring it around, it makes the bar. We complete. So let's go through all of the cases in pairs. This is the first pair. They look identical from the front, but you can see that these are opposite on this one. They're the same on this one. So knowing that, I'm going to put that in back. Knowing that these are opposite, I now know that it's going to be a horizontal slice. I can tell I don't want to break these, so it's not the D, and I can see the individual, so it's clearly this is the slice. It's going to end up making a red bar in back, because I know that the opposite of orange is red. I know that this is going to go in back and make a bar here, and so that red bar is going to be brought on top, turned around, and then it's going to need to go in front. That's enough information to just blindfold solve the rest of the thing. One little trick, however, is that right before getting the left-right edges in, not only do you notice that these are opposites, but rather than do a U to get the left-right edges in, only to then do a U2 to pair these up and back, you should notice that this matches with this. And so that's going to match with two reds in the back. So you may as well, instead of doing this and then a U2, just do a U prime to begin with. And that makes a red bar in the back, bring it to the top, turn it around, put the red in front. This one, these were the same, so we know it's going to be a vertical slice. So it's going to end up being it's this one, because here's the individual, and plus we don't want to break these up, so we know it's not the back slice. This is going to go on top, and it's going to turn around and make a yellow bar in front. So you know that this is going to go on top, come around, it's going to make a yellow bar in front, and then that yellow bar is going to have to be brought to the top. So bring that to the front, yellow bar in front, yellow on top, and we're done. Next pair again identical, except these are opposites, and these are the same. So this is going to be a horizontal bar. And again, we can notice that these reds and this red match up, so we can just do that right away. It's going to make an orange bar in back, which is going to need to go in back. This one, they're the same, so it's going to be a vertical bar. So we know that there's no shortcut there either. We don't want to break this. We know it's this one. Put that on top, makes a white bar in front, and that needs to go on the bottom. The third pair of cases, again identical from the front, but we notice before putting in the left and right edges that these are opposite and these are the same. And so these being opposite, we know that it's going to be a horizontal case, and that's actually a trigger that before putting in the left-right edges, we know it's a horizontal case, we know it's the up slice, because we don't want to break these. We should check, do these colors match? And they do in this case. So we make the red bar in front right away and put it in. Here they're the same, which means it's a vertical slice. We don't want to break these, so it's not the front, it's definitely the back. And so it makes a yellow bar in front. We put that on top. The fourth pair of cases, this time we notice that these are opposite and these are the same right before putting in the left-right edges. And again, this one, before putting the left-right edges, we notice that these colors match. We can go ahead and build the orange bar in front right away, put that on top, and it goes to the back. This one, these being the same, we know that it's going to be a vertical slice. It's not going to be the front slice because we don't want to break those, so it's definitely these. And so it's going to make a white bar in front, and that needs to go on bottom. Here's the fifth pair. Again, of course, they're the same, except these are opposite right before putting them in, and these are the same. Being opposite, we know that it's going to be a horizontal slice. This is a tricky one, though, because for the first time, we know that it's not the up slice because we don't want to break these, so it's the bottom slice. So that's going to need to go to the top. It's going to end up making a red bar in back. And put that on top and move it to the front. And this one, these are the same, so it's going to be a vertical slice. Moves to the top, it's going to end up being this yellow bar in the back. Sixth pair, now again, opposites and the same. So opposites, it's going to be a horizontal slice, but it's not going to be the up slice because we don't want to break these, so it's this down slice. That needs to be brought to the top. It's going to make an orange bar in the back, which needs to go back to the back again. And these are the same, so there's going to be a vertical slice. It's not going to be the back because we don't want to break this. So it goes here and it makes a white bar in the back. It needs to go on the bottom. The seventh pair of cases, again, opposites and the same. So they look identical, but we know that because these are opposites, it's going to be a horizontal slice. It's not going to be the up slice because we don't want to break these, so it's this down slice. It needs to be brought to the top. It's going to make a red bar in front. These are the same, so it's going to be a vertical slice. It's not going to be the front because we don't want to break these, so it's definitely the back. It's going to end up making a yellow bar in the back. Here's the final eighth pair of cases. So we have opposites right before it goes to the back, and the same right before it goes to the back. Being opposites, we know it's going to be a horizontal slice. It's not the up slice because we don't want to break this, so it's the down slice. It needs to be brought to the top. It's going to make an orange bar in front. It needs to go to the back. Here they're the same, so it's going to be a vertical slice. It's not the front because we don't want to break this, so it's the back. And it makes a white bar in the back that needs to go on the bottom. So just a plug for the briefcubing.com site. It's a great resource for learning Roux using the Geeker Cube. So of course we have the CMLLs and the EO cases, but now we have the L4E cases, which is what we've been talking about here. It has all 24 cases, minus one for the solved case. It shows up in diagrams like these, so that you can take a peek at the left and right edges and make your decisions. You have to do the rest of the solve blind. It's actually quite a puzzle. So in this case, these are opposites, so it's going to be a horizontal case. I know it's not going to be the down face because that would be breaking these up. Also, I can see that this red can match with these, making an orange block in back to start with. And so I can just do that Go ahead and make the orange block in back, bring it to the top, flip it around, and orange goes to the back. And that's the solution for that one. And you can just flip through and get all of the possible different cases and practice them. It's quite difficult. It's quite fun though. briefcubing.com.